today in Judges 9 to 10, we encounter Avimelech. And when things are just getting from bad to worse, there's this story of scheming, betrayal. Yeah, it's just against the backdrop of how we actually have king, our true king, and we know him as Jesus. But obviously that's not the case with Avimelech. So Gideon named his son Avimelech. We heard from last week's message. I mean, Avimelech can mean a few things because the Hebrew name doesn't come with vowels. Vowels are those little dots that you see below the consonants of the Hebrew name The one in the middle where you see a rectangle with a yellow, that's how the name looks like without all the dots. So it can mean a few things. It can mean father of a king. It can mean my king. My father is a king. In the context of our story, right, I really think that my father is a king is very, very very appropriate. Why? Because it just tells us what Gideon has been thinking all the while, and this is the thing that got into his son Avimelech. And in order to fulfill his goal, right? Because he's been called all his life that his father is a king, and so what does that make him potentially a king, right? And to make that potential a reality, what does he do? I mean, he can go into all the unscrupulous means. He can be very merciless, ruthless, and of course he seek help from his relatives in Shechem. When we read the chapter 9, you will find that this place resembles everything Canaanite. You just don't go away with a picture that this is a Israelite society anymore. They worship Baal Berith, Canaanite god. They get the funding from there to carry out the massacre. 70 brothers of Avimelech, half brothers, that were killed with one stone. Right, so Avimelech got his wish, right? He became a king, so to speak. He reigned for 3 years. But very interestingly, over here, the word rule, right, isn't the word Melech. Melech means king. So the word rule is like a subordinate ruler, a governor kind of thing, a prince. At most. So while he thinks that he is king, the narrator, from God's perspective, really doesn't recognize that. So it doesn't matter what we call ourselves. God caused bad blood to grow up between Avimelech and the leaders of Shechem. So they then later went on. If you read the chapter on your own, you'll find that another contender comes about, who is another little Avimelech, who looks exactly like him. So they had an ambush. And remember, ambush is like, the tactics that the Israelites used to win their battles, but now they use it against their own people. Never mind then. A long story short, Avimelech just overpowered this Shechem. He killed the people there. He went on to burn 1,000 people to death at a tower. But then as he went on to the next city, right, wanting to do the same thing, a woman dropped a stone used by slaves to do grinding work, right? Dropped a stone and killed him. So he died an embarrassing death. Is probably the thing that he wanted to avoid most in his life. And so, because he was born from of a concubine, so you can imagine the kind of embarrassment that he had to put up with all his life, and it got into him, the ego, the wanting to rule over others. But he tried to deal with it his way, and end up it didn't work because there's no way out in all our human ways to rule over others, to get things our way. So God set the record straight. God returned the wickedness of Avimelech back onto his own head with one stone. Again, it's quite an irony for him. So we see that if we were to accept this kind of corrupt leadership, we will know that there will be consequences, and no matter who is it, God will administer that justice. We don't always understand God's timing, but God is just, and God's justice will eventually meet the crime that was committed. So I don't know how many of us heard of Mars Hill Church. It used to be a 14,000 strong mega church spread across a few states in the US. And of course, when I will talk more about this this Sunday during the sermon, more about the pastor Mark Driscoll. But over here, I'm gonna mention something different. That is for Mars Hill Church. The collapse came about because the senior pastor who commanded 14,000 people, who was just a tyrant. He was accused of a lot of abusive behavior. When people say that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, it is true. And because of that, he got into a lot of conflicts with his own leaders, with his own staff. So the end result of it was his downfall. And this churches under this Mars Hill church, they scattered and went independent. So the Mark Driscoll, he met his downfall, but of course he apparently started another church and continued the same way and we see that in order for us to emulate Christ, that certainly is not the way. Jesus told his disciples, remember, two of them, one wanting to sit on his right, one wanting to sit on his left. They wanted to be, in prominent positions. But Jesus called them and he said to them, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles, they lord it over them, lord harshly, the kind of idea, and their great ones exercise authority over them. It shall not be so among you, but whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be your slave. Even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. I really don't think that Jesus is saying this to put us in a very losing kind of position. I don't think so. I think that in there is a lot of wisdom. In there is a lot of power. There's a lot of power when we do things the way God wants it done, and we allow God to use it to work out his circumstances. That is when we see his power at work. The world will tell us that we must take matters into our hands. We must have control. And sometimes with the little position that we have, we tend to become a bit proud, and we try to exercise that little power, or so we think, over other people, just to show you that I am in charge. That's really very undesirable. I mean, we can do that, but God definitely is not pleased. So from the short little devotion today, maybe my takeaway, and hopefully it will bless you, is also that we will learn and see for ourselves how, when we live out this example that Jesus has left for us, something that he left by dying on the cross to achieve, may that be an example for us truly to guide our lives and to see him delivering us his way, not our way. Okay, so I think the single thought that I'll leave with us is reign over us. It's not to ask each other to reign over any one of us, but God reign over us, that we be under his rule, because that's when we really see God's power at work.